Hello and welcome back to the Embodia Sessions. Today we're doing the second episode of season 1 and my guest for today is Dariia. Dariia is originally from the Ukraine, but she's living in Berlin. She's working as a yoga and flexibility teacher and also is the studio manager of Shalas Berlin. I discovered Dariia by just being a student in one of her classes and I really enjoyed her way of teaching, and thus I really wanted her to be part in this podcast and share her knowledge with you guys, also with me. I'm very excited about getting to know her a bit better and learning about what it's like to be a teacher in Berlin, and what's her journey in yoga like. And I hope you're gonna enjoy this episode and getting to know Dariia. Now I'm here with Dariia, and yeah, I'm very happy that you're here with me today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Leonie. I'm very glad that you have me here today, and I love your studio. I'm doing great.
Very nice.
How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm doing good too, also enjoying that the weather got a bit better. Perfect. Today we want to talk a bit about yoga and your journey into it, also what it's like to be a teacher in Berlin. I'm gonna ask you some questions about it. I'm very curious about your journey. I would like to start with a little warm up where we're just gonna do some quick this or that questions for the audience to get to know you a bit better. Morning or evening yoga practice?
Evening. The body is ready.
Teaching a big group or a small class?
Big group, because it is like a party. It's like a party.
Ashtanga or Vinyasa?
Personally, Ashtanga, to teach Vinyasa.
Journaling or talking it out?
Talking it out. And my partner, my therapist, everyone.
Just out. Berlin or somewhere in the nature?
Berlin.
Meditate first or move first?
Meditate.
Discipline or intuition on the mat?
Both.
Okay.
Yes, both. And now I'm leaning more intuition, but before, so both is good. Yeah.
Slow Sunday or productive Sunday?
Slow.
Cold shower or long hot bath?
Long hot shower.
Okay, good choice. Hair or hair down?
Down.
I agree. Minimal skincare or full ritual?
Minimal and very specific.
Okay. And that was it with our little warm-up rounds. Are you ready to get it a bit deeper now?
I'm so ready. Yeah, very ready. Always ready.
I would like to start with you in your very beginning, in the beginning of your journey. So I wanted to know from you, who were you before you started your journey of yoga and before getting on the mat? What was your personality like? Did you always have been into spirituality and into yoga and all of those practices?
I was a kid without much movement, so I was always bookish kind of kid. And currently, I envy all those people who did like gymnastics when they were younger, or you did ballet, I think. That is also very nice. I didn't have that experience, and I was always more in my head. But then slowly, like around teenagehood, I discovered body and physicality, and I was doing fencing for a couple of years. And then I also moved to like practicing in the gym when I was quite young. So like around 16, I was already lifting weights. But the general vibe, I would say I was always curious and I was always questioning many things. No matter my age, I remember always like trying to be aware and trying to understand things and also to kind of notice myself doing certain things. Yeah. Recognizing patterns. Like as a kid, I also loved psychology. Later, basically, I realized that my love to psychology is also my love to consciousness and mindfulness and everything that came later.
Beautiful. I personally didn't expect that. I was thinking that you were a gymnast or like ballet or
Oh, I'd
something.
love to.
Yeah, but very nice that took that turn, or you have that journey, that path there. Then your journey started with silence instead of movement, right?
Yes.
That's super interesting. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
I would suggest that my journey into yoga started before even yoga, and it was with Vipassana retreat. I was at my like adolescence when I was around 19, so like a young woman learning about myself and about the world. And I had a friend who introduced me to like mindfulness, how the brain works. You always enter a certain field, like a topic of knowledge, and then there are people who are publishing articles, writing books, doing podcasts in that field of knowledge, and I've like entered it about consciousness, about the brain, about some neurological stuff, and also yes, Vipassana retreat. So it was 10 days and it was transformative in a way that you could argue you can have like 5 retreats in your life or 10 retreats, and you can also go every year or you can go every second year. But I believe even one time is enough. And I believe if you take that one time with care and knowing what you're doing and knowing why you're doing this, you will already get a lot out of it rather than, like going 10 times and maybe repeating the same pattern.
Okay, beautiful and interesting. For maybe those who listen, who don't know what Vipassana is, can you explain a bit how this retreat looked like a typical day?
Yes, it is 10 days that are separated in the structure of first 3 days, then 7 last, and the last day is another topic. So first 3 days, you observe your breath. You're not doing a breath work. You're specifically doing nothing else, just observing the breath as it is. After this 3 days practice, you start to observe your body from crown of the head to the big toes, from the big toes to the crown of the head. I would say since the first day already many interesting things start to happen to your mind and what you notice about your mind. And the last day is Metta Bhavana, like loving kindness meditation, which I believe is there to ground people after all what they have experienced. Because for many of us, being for 10 days only with your own mind is a lot. You are not allowed to talk to anyone. You're not allowed to look into each other's eyes, ideally. So, like, no contact at all. We have to put away the phones. We just give them away. You're not allowed to write things down, not allowed to read. So it's not that they say, like, you have free time now, you can go and do whatever. No, usually I remember that during the free time, you literally had time to, like, wash your socks, maybe nap a little bit, and then your hour was gone and you were back to meditating. I think we were waking up 5-ish in the morning, and then there were 3 hours of meditation, 2 hours break for breakfast and your personal stuff. Again, either 3 or 4 hours of meditation, 1 or 2 hours lunch, and again 3 hours of meditation and a lecture in the evening, and then sleep. So it was meditation, meditation, meditation. I think I was very robotic to how I approached it, in a way that I thought, okay, it's a very responsible task and I have to do it. And I am not going to wait for any specific outcome. I'm just going to let things play out as they are going to play out. Because again, I had a friend who have been there at this retreat already, and he was quite deeply involved with the topics of our mind. He told me, so I had certain expectations, but not in a form of expectation, more like an idea of what could happen. And again, trying to have like expectations low, not to be disappointed, or not allowing those expectations to change my experience, basically. And to have just my own experience of what is going to happen. I think it's like going to school, and for example, at school, they would make you write letter A 10 times and then a second row 10 times. And then at some point, this A turns into your own handwriting. And the same you do at this Vipassana retreat, you learn how to observe your breath, like as a very specific, very small task. Just observe your breath. And then you do it 3 days, you do 7 days of your own body scan, and then it turns into your handwriting. It turns into your everyday life and into your practice. You are always in touch with yourself. Some of us, we need second year of school. To some of us, there are like wunderkinds who have already this somehow internalized. I'm saying it's just because I know that for some people, this Vipassana doesn't work at all. They go there, they try to get this experience, and then they were, for 10 days, just actually thinking their thoughts, came into some loop, and then in the end wrote a big Instagram post about how they realized something about their new identity. It's very easy to be tricked, and I'm not saying that I was not tricked with myself, but the tool that they give you is actually very simple. It should be easy if you know how to apply it.
Sounds very, very interesting. Actually, that I think about this now, you're only 24 right now. How old were you when you did that retreat?
I think I was around 19 to 20.
I feel like that's very, very young to start that journey. I feel like you're overall a very mature being.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is the experience of Eastern European people, I think. And
Yeah.
also, yeah, personal experience, like when you have to grow up quite quickly because of your family or your relatives or the experiences that you have in life. So lucky in the room, I had girls who were the same age as I was. And we were the youngest there. There were also no other young women. And we keep following each other on Instagram since then. And we don't like text, but we know what happens in each other's life. And that's also quite nice.
And where did you do it?
That one was in Kiev, so around Kiev. And there are Vipassana centers all over the world. Like, for example, in Berlin, you could also register for it in many cities. They have those centers. Yeah, it does not really matter which country you are, I guess. Some people also travel for it, right? Into some capital city but in Berlin it is much harder to get in from what I heard because many people know about it and more people in Berlin are interested.
Yeah, I can imagine. From that experience, you transferred more into yoga and movement and combined everything. How was it like? So you came from that retreat and maybe you felt inspired. How did you end up then choosing yoga? How did you start and explore it?
For example, at this retreat, during the lectures that you listen to, Goenka, who is the teacher, I think one of the final lectures, he mentions he was dead, unfortunately, at the point of when I was at the retreat. So we listened to the pre-recorded lectures, and I was lucky to have like the level of English to be able to understand because in the other room, I remember they had a translated version, so they would not listen directly to the original, and I was very glad to like listen directly to his voice and how he was saying all those things. It's like a seed that you plant into yourself and you never know when is it going to grow. You plant it, you try to take care of it, you water it, you put it on the sun, and then you just wait. So with me, I think it happens very similar way. I was full of ideas. Again, I was listening to, for example, Sam Harris. He's very well known for anti-religion ideas. He is a journalist, writer, philosopher, and he engaged a lot with these ideas of how our consciousness works and why, and like what's the end goal of people here. He had the idea of, for example, moral compass. Super cool idea. He explains how it all functions and what is the like ultimate evil, ultimate good, and how we all have intuitive feeling of what it is. But what I was saying, I was full of ideas about what mind and consciousness is. And then through this retreat, I first time faced it in practice. And then there was a time where I could not have access to it because you get out of this retreat, and what they recommend is to practice for an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. And I tried, I think, for like 2 weeks. I had that in my schedule that I would wake up, and I already worked in the office at that point. I was a copywriter. So imagine my workday starts at like 9-ish, and I have to be at work at 9 before I need to wake up, wash my hair, like put myself together. And before that, even, I have to meditate for an hour. So, like, you wake up at 5. Yes, you wake up at 5 and you sit there and you're like, okay, I have a task to meditate now. And you feel quite miserable at some point because also you realize like 6 hours of sleep is not enough. And if you also want to train and if you want to eat and sometimes, oh God, meet friends, these 10 days, they are, again, what I said, like a school, right? And it's a little bit of an ideal condition where you can just come and practice and it's a setup perfectly for it. And then you're in your real life, it's not as perfect anymore.
Yeah.
And then the war started. And then I came to Berlin when I moved. I did not want to mention this topic of war and my moving, but it influenced me
Yeah, of
to
course.
some degree, right? So when I moved here, I think I was too busy with just my basic needs. Like this dumb Maslow triangle, if you know, like that you have to just be fed and warm and have a place to live. I was quite lucky to find all of that, but still, like German bureaucracy, getting used to the city, realizing that you are uprooted. Also, people whom I missed dearly. And that same friend who introduced me to all this mindfulness couldn't be in touch with me anymore. It was like a lot. And this meditation and Vipassana, I still like, you have it in your head as just an idea, but you have it out of practice. And then Ashtanga happens to me and I'm back. And that was very strong. I was on the mat, and there they make you learn a very specific sequence. And it's my first time doing this very specific yoga under the eyes of a very specific teacher who is very demanding from the first day already. I was a little more than a beginner flexible for some reason. I don't know why. So he thought that maybe I already have to know things. And he was asking from me as if I have already been to classes before and I haven't. And then I also started asking this for myself. So I was very focused, very like laser focused, alert, but also calm, because in the room it is very quiet and the movement is a little cyclical. Like, for example, the vinyasa itself, right? You can go through it many times. Yeah, and then I was like, oh wow, this is exactly how it was on this retreat. Why have I stopped meditating? Where was I? I could say that I was for some time in this like a survival mode a little bit, and that Ashtanga evening brought me back and also led to some years of dedication afterwards to that idea, and then to Vinyasa yoga in general and to this circle of yoga in Berlin.
Beautiful. I really like that journey. It really sounds to me like you're meant to be, like doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, the seed is growing. I hope.
Yeah, beautiful. Now at your state that you made this your profession, like you're a teacher, into that every day, like it really is your life at this point, like how does it affect your loved ones, the people around you? Like, do you feel like you have a big impact on how they view certain things, how they experience mindfulness? Or do you also actively try to incorporate it into their lives?
I hope that it influences them. I hope that my state of being, gives them what it can possibly give. And I think everyone finds in mindfulness their own thing. Some use it just to help themselves. Some use it to become better humans. I wish that I start using mindfulness more as not only like self-improving tool, but as a way of treating other people differently and nicer and more open in this calm state of awareness, just allowing people to be who people are, just seeing them for who they are, without trying to rush the relationships. For example, you talk to your friend and your friend shares something with you and you have a reaction towards it. And your first reaction is to maybe say like, no, I don't like that, or no, you shouldn't do this. And then instead, because you are maybe practicing mindfulness, you're like, I'm just gonna let her finish the sentence, for example. And then maybe instead of rushing into my opinion, gonna ask her one more question about why she thinks it is like that or why she thinks she should do it. I hope my people, my favorite people who are around me, I hope they are getting all the benefits that I'm getting from practicing mindfulness into how I treat them. And I'm very lucky that I have chosen people who are also on their own path of mindfulness. My partner also, we have a little bit of an age gap, but when he was my age, he was also going to 8 limbs diamond meditation. And that, I think, turned out to be more of a sect. But what they did was also focusing on some syllables and some Sanskrit sentences. So again, it's like a object and a meditation. You bring your minds to the object. Similar thing. He really like has his own cool practice and cool way of living. He has a psychology degree. I think I'm also quite peculiar in who I choose to be with from day to day. I'm very selective. Yeah, so I hope they are influenced and they also influence me in all the best ways.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. And I feel like really there it applies the saying that you attract the people, the energy you give off, you get back. And I feel like that's
Yes.
applying to you as it should. Yeah, but it's very beautiful. I always find it very inspiring to give this energy to people, but also receive it back. And because you get back so much good energy, you can enrich the people in your classes with it, like
It's much easier to give a good class if you are in a good state of mind, right? If you are grounded and like in your center, whatever.
yeah.
There is also like an internal family system. It's one of the therapeutical approaches. They would literally describe it as your self center. And
Mm-hmm.
then there are parts of you. So in your self center, you have to have, I think it is 8 C's and 5 P's. And it's like patience, persistence, playfulness, something else. And then in those C's, it's also like curiosity, connectedness, and so on and so forth. So all those good qualities you try to somehow grow within yourself and then bring it to the world. And yeah, in your own capacity, of course.
That's a beautiful idea. I've never actually heard of it before. I've also, because you sent me your introduction text, and I've stick to a saying of yours that was that you described the mind as beautiful, deceiving, and volatile, um, which I find very specific to say and also a very good description, actually. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
I think it's something that you can notice from moment to moment, literally. For example, you can try to predict your next thought,
Mm-hmm.
and then you realize that for that you would need to think your thought before thinking it,
Yes.
which is not possible, which is a paradox. And yeah, so how can you kind of trust your mind? The thoughts are appearing in the consciousness. They like flow or slide or whatever into it, and we can only look at them when they are already there. Mind blowing, I think. Yes. Also, the beauty of it is how we are all in this together. Anicca, everything is changing. It's a Sanskrit word. Nothing is permanent. Everything is changing always, and there is a beauty in this change and in this instability.
I like the idea that nothing is permanent, humbles you in a way that even the most like cheerful, most exciting moments in your life, you're gonna have to at some point ground and come back to your base. But also the bad times, at some point you're gonna come back to good ones. So I feel like that's a very good kind of like mindset to have, a very good thing to remember.
We discussed it also with my therapist. She introduced some article to me that the mind works sometimes like a pendulum, because also the neuron connections, they go like from one to each other, like back and forth. And then if
Yeah.
you think of the mind as a pendulum, you think like, oh, I love myself, I'm so beautiful. I hate myself, I want to die, like all of this. And then slowly, gradually, you kind of center yourself, and then this pendulum is not going that much back and forth, but it's still there, and there's still this movement. So again, like no matter how grounded or how stable you are just a human, and therefore you will always change, and there will always be some challenge.
I also feel like many people have that expectation that once they want to get into spirituality, once they want to get into the practices of meditation, yoga, they feel like at some point they are always grounded,
Oh
They feel like
yes, or like, oh, now it's forever.
I'm gonna be, like stable. But I feel like that's also a misconception, like it's good that we aren't always stable. It's good that we are,
Yes,
right?
totally. And also, like, everything is to a degree an illusion, in a way that we think that there is a next moment. Like, we don't know what happens tomorrow. And it's also like, now it sounds quite dramatic from a person who comes from the war. But just in general, our mind wants this to be very stable, right? But
Yeah.
things are very unpredictable, and also in a good way.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, if you project your future, you would project it as something that is the same, but maybe better.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you would think, oh, I still maybe live in this area and I still am with the same people. But then in 5 years, you look back and you think, oh, that's a completely different person. I cannot even recognize myself. Who was that? And
Yeah.
how different my life turned out.
Good point there. Um, Another thing that I stick to was that you said you're skeptical about enlightenment. And because it is imagined or promised. I found that very honest to say.
Thank you.
What is it exactly that you're skeptical of?
Enlightenment is just a concept, right? So all the things, all the Sanskrit words that we can name, or all the ideas, theories about how mind works, those are just concepts that we make, and we can they help us navigate the world, of course. I say that I'm skeptical about it because I do not want people to think that they have to reach it now if they come to yoga class, or they close their eyes and they're like so frustrated that they have not reached this enlightenment. Of course, you haven't reached it, and possibly you're never going to, because we are all housekeepers, you know, we have like our own businesses, our relationships. We are not monks who dedicate our lives to reaching enlightenment. We decide to dedicate our lives to some other things. And that is also a decision that is driven by factors that were not even created by us. So many things are predetermined in our life. Coming back to Sam Harris, if you say that you cannot know which next thought you're going to have, you also cannot claim that the actions that you take are the ones that you have chosen. So there are voluntary and involuntary actions. Voluntary is that you decide that you're going to drink tea. But that decision, where did it come from, you know? Like, again, the thought just comes into your head. So this decision to go and have tea is just, you just see it, you observe it, you going having tea. And then non-voluntary is like a reflex or some compulsive thought, intrusive thoughts, everything that is not aligned with your intentions, let's say. Or like eating disorders, maybe smoking even, because that is like a chemical addiction, right? So voluntary and involuntary. If there are only those voluntary actions and everything was predetermined, it makes very slim chance that you are then turning out to be a monk who sits in the mountains and meditates and decides to reach this like bliss, ananda in yoga or enlightenment. The closest experience to enlightenment is when you walk and it's a sunny day, and then you see that the sakura was blooming, those pink, beautiful trees, and those tiny leaves, they start falling, and they start falling on you, and you're like, oh wow, what a life. And this short tiny moment, I love those moments, I have those, and I wish that everyone has those. That is as close to enlightenment as we can get. And then also to just go through day to day with this extra pendulum being a little closer to the centrum, that is also already like a certain way of being enlightened.
I find that really super realistic to say, you know, because I feel like
Yes, right.
a lot of people, they try to give this idea of enlightenment that before you kind of like get into all of this practice, or before you can tell that you're maybe into something like spirituality, into something like yoga, you had to have that one big thing that happened.
Yes.
I find that counterproductive, because it's like, I feel like it distances a lot of people from experiencing it.
And it also maybe puts some financial thing to it. Like if you buy our Kundalini course, if you pay for our ayahuasca retreat, if you do this and that, then you're finally going to have it. Yeah, well, maybe not. And those are the simplest moments that actually cost nothing to get something close to it.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. I
Yeah.
hope that more people, you know, they get this idea and they experience these little moments as being close to enlightenment.
Going through life and being, again, open and beginner's mind. Like there is MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction approach. It's one more course that can be taken. They talk about 8 attitudes, and one of those attitudes is beginner's mind. You go through the world and you imagine that you see things for the first time, because we are very much automatizing all of our experience, and we think, oh, this is the same street that I'm walking, this is the same food that I'm eating, the same person I'm talking to. And then you're like, no, I want to bring my attention back from my thoughts to this person or to this food. And I want to enjoy it, not automatically, but bringing attention. And by bringing this attention, you already make the moments more magical, and maybe you are close to enlightenment, hopefully. Just making things nicer for yourself, because the brain is like energy saving machine. and it wants to automatize all the processes that it can make automatic. So it makes a lot of sense that we start to be bored by our food or our friends, and that the same street seems boring to us and we cannot enjoy it as much. But trying to have this beginner's mind and to see old things also as new under some different angle.
A beautiful idea about something so small, something so integrative for everyone.
Yes, it's like a practice. You can do it every day.
I've also done a whole meditation course, and I was talking to the teacher at some point that, as you said in the beginning, it's like 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. It seems a lot to me, you know, like it's nice. I feel super grounded after. I'm ready to start the day with such a fresh mind, but it's very time consuming. And that's the point where many people
Yes.
say, okay, I'm out. So what he told me, it's like, it's really not about that big thing. If you want to feel this presence for just some seconds of the day or in the moments where it's really needed. Now I feel like anxiety is coming up. I'm out of my balance. I don't feel present in the moment. Put your fingers together and feel literally the sensation of your fingers touching, and you're in the present. Maybe just seconds, you're out of your mind, you're in a state of present, and you can do that like a thousand times in a day. And I was starting to do that when I was brushing my teeth, for example. I was starting to feel just a toothbrush on my teeth. Brushing your teeth, usually for me, it's an action that I get into my thoughts. I think
You
about,
just rush.
yeah, but then it grounds you. The pendulum, it's coming a bit more to silent. And I find that so beautiful because, same as you described, it's such easy things where you get very close to being grounded. I wish more people like understand that it can be very, very, very simple and realistic, and it's not a big thing. And as you said, it doesn't have to be an investment to feel enlightened.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be. So
that is true. Yeah, there are many like those day-to-day things. Conscious eating, that you choose any food that you eat every day, but like you take, for example, a grape, right? And you close your eyes and you just, with your fingers, perceive the grape as it is. And then you bring the grape to your ear and you try to hear how the grape sounds in your hands. And you keep your eyes closed through this whole process, and then you bite a very tiny bite. And again, you close your eyes and you feel the taste as if it's the first time you're eating this grape, and you hear how it sounds and all of that. Cheap, affordable, right now, just go for it. The other one is to always feel your feet, like what you said with the fingers, but with your feet. So basically, when you're sitting, your feet on the floor or in the shoes or anywhere, works wonders, I think.
yeah, really.
Yeah.
I feel like right now we're talking about simple things there are in life, but with such an enthusiasm that I hope the audience, they incorporate it into their life.
Totally. Oh, please, guys, do that. It's very good. You're gonna love it.
You will, and it will definitely change how you view certain things. I think it will affect your mood, just try it. Also experience yourself what it does for you.
Some of my practices, like physical practices, they of course came from being a woman and having certain body dysmorphia vibes. So mewing is the thing where you try to change your face shape so that your jaw is prominent and that your like cheekbones are high enough. But how it works is that you always have to keep the tongue on the upper palate to support this main maxilla bone. It's never scientifically proven, this mewing thing, but there is like big community. It's also this meme of looks maxing, those guys who are looks maxing, they do mewing a lot, but we change it. And basically mewing, you feel your tongue on the upper palate. It's healthy for the body, good for the spine, and you're grounded because again, you feel your tongue on the upper palate. We perceive the world from the eyes, and the eyes, they take a lot of our brain capacity because we have to process this visual info. And we have an idea that the mind and the consciousness is also somewhere here because eyes are so important. Actually, consciousness is not in the head, but because we think that consciousness is in the head, the tongue on the upper palate feels somehow comforting because you go directly from here to your tongue.
Interesting idea. Yes, thank you for sharing. I'm gonna do a little bit of a switch into another topic now because I feel like it's another big yeah, like interest of mine towards you. You're a teacher in Berlin, which on the one side I feel like it's a city that's very open to mindfulness, but on the other side it's also a very big city, fast living city, constantly changing city. Um how do you perceive your classes? Like, how do you perceive the people that come and take those classes? How do you feel like the teaching experience is like in Berlin?
I like it. I like the teaching experience in Berlin. I also have not had teaching experience anywhere that is not Berlin.
Yeah.
I haven't had even online classes because I don't like online format that much. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe if we have like some second pandemic, it's going to be the case for both of us that we have to start doing our online classes. But yeah, it's clearly a busy city and a city of people who are like grinding. And because I teach mostly in Piberg, the crowd here is it's a very certain crowd. Like if you go and you teach in Kreuzberg, it's a different crowd. So people who I have, very often women, very often from their 20s to their 60s. It's like really me segregating. I think like a good middle class who earns and who has their life together and who comes from the office for lunch or who comes after their work. So busy, but clearly conscious and put together, I would say. It's quite pleasant to come into interaction with those people because they have already solved certain problems and they're not maybe like super loud or super, I don't know, anxious. So it's quite easy. What I'm saying is that everyone is nice and everyone is trying to accommodate each other and to be kind. Sometimes I think what I notice is that people are rushing, like even they have maybe 5 minutes more or 10 minutes more, but they are already like, okay, yes, this is, like it doesn't work. The QR, we have to now take your time. You have all the time. Yeah, it's fine. We like QR, try to do it outside. There is a better Wi-Fi. We can solve it. Nothing like the studio is not gonna disappear now because your phone is not working, for example. It's also very interesting actually that as a teacher, you always have to, no matter what happens in your life, you have to be in a certain way. If it's a job in the office that you work from 8 to 5, your personal life kind of anyhow goes to the background because you are now in this different building and you are talking to these people from 8 to 5. And as a yoga teacher, you are going through life and you know that like at 16:45 you have this appointment. And there can be things that have happened before 16:45 that you have to solve or that are now preoccupying you, that you have to somehow put outside, tell all those things to wait, and to show up in front of people with your smiley self and also with your grounded, open, calm awareness, sensitive to others in a good way, right? I think what I'm trying to do currently is I'm trying to let people be who they are. Like just without trying to put them into certain poses or without focusing on like, okay, now we all have to get this pose. Now we do the compass pose and doesn't matter if you can or cannot, let's all do it. I try to see the classes and the people during those classes more as continuous processes of maybe even more of a self-discovery rather than achieving something. And I always say, just explore. Yeah, I mean, it works. I think, I hope. Just explore, guys.
Actually, now that you're saying this, like, as much as you have to be in a certain state, let's say, if you enter the class for the people to have a good experience, do you feel like that their energy affects you in how your mood changes, just if it sometimes drains your energy to be in front of those classes, or do you feel like this doesn't have too much of an effect on yourself?
Less and less, I would say. So when I was just starting out to teach, I remember I was hyper aware of people in the room. And even if there was one person that was just doing something that was not according to how I would imagine things need to be happening, I would already be off balance. But that's like early days. And now I don't have that at all. I can't even say that the classes really fulfill me. Each time I feel better after the class than I felt before the class. And it does not even depend that much on the people. It depends more on me being in my center during the classes. Certain things as a teacher you have automatic. You can wake up and you can speak your sequence without showing just as a text. Certain things you have to keep fresh, because if you are just a robot who does ta 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 ta, people cannot relate to you. People don't see you. People just think, well, she's just talking something. So you have to be like human in front of them.
Yeah.
And for me, I think now I'm at this balance where I am automatic enough to be free with all the other things that I need to be alive. What I'm good at during those classes is to like not let people be upset if they're trying something new or if they're trying something different, that I am again automatic to keep them together, but also human to say like, let's just try again, or yeah guys, let's abandon this, we move on, continue, all is good. So no, I don't feel drained. I feel better after each class, and sometimes I'm even more drained before the class because I know that I'm going to be exposed. That's also some very specific thing about being a yoga teacher, is that again, no matter how your day was happening before, you show up to the class and 15 or 45 people are going to look at you and listen to every word you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine that? What is that even? Who in their right mind decides to do that, to bring that upon themselves?
Yeah.
Why did I do this? Yeah.
Now that you're saying this, yeah, you're right. I feel like by you telling this, you're beginning to how you see things now also show that by you becoming a teacher, you taught so much to yourself, right? To reach that state now, it's very beautiful to see that journey.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, of course, it influences you drastically to be in touch with people and to. I can also say that you notice a lot the dynamic of the room. So that's one thing. You are not influenced by specific people anymore, but you can notice that some class is more quiet for some reason. Maybe everyone is tired today, or maybe it rains outside. And
Yeah.
some classes are just like more chaotic and exciting, and some new things. I love if something happens. I had a person who got stuck in the toilet. She just couldn't come out. Like the locker stopped working, and then I needed to ask the manager to come in and open the door.
Oh
Or
my
like
God.
I had a person who she dislocated her elbow, and that was of course sad and painful. But I was like, oh, exciting.
Yeah. A little switch.
I mean, yeah. Again, because certain things got too automatic, and then you have something new, and it's like, oh wow, I'm actually beginner's mind. I'm a child again, and things are never the same as they seem to be.
A very realistic. To
Honest, yeah.
going to a class also shouldn't feel like, like you're entering this place outside of the world and outside of what's usually going on. I mean, it's just part of your life. And if things
Yes.
are planned, that's also just part of your life. You're not in this like bubble of where everything is perfect. And just because you're right now focusing on your body and mind, everything has to go as planned. It's still your day to day.
I think it's a very heavy burden to think that things to have to go accordingly to plan.
Yeah,
That hurts many people, and yeah,
it
better
does.
to not have any expectations.
Yeah, I agree. I have been to your classes as well. That's, how I even um, became aware of you. And then, yeah, I feel like it was just a random Friday night that I was scrolling through urban sports and I stopped at the word flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like, to me, as a former dancer, it hit the spot and I was like, okay, let's try. And
Yes.
let me tell you, I loved your class. Like really, I've been to so many different like yoga classes and Pilates classes, but in that moment, I just felt like it was doing something for me. After that, I started to investigate a lot more about stretching. I investigated a lot about the connection of your nervous system and how it regulates by stretching. I have experienced this so many times before because
You have this experience as ballet, yeah.
yeah, ballet background. It's kind of like stretching and has always given me some sort of not just happiness but also grounding and just feeling so good afterward. I could just never put it into words, and then I was like understanding it out of nowhere, and I really yeah, like that idea. I also encouraging people to visit your classes. They're really amazing. I just want to ask you how you started to incorporate this stretching and this flexibility idea, how you see it, if it also is an idea about regulating the nervous system, or from what angle kind of like approach this idea of stretching.
Okay, to be very honest, like without putting any grandiose like concepts on top, it was a way for me to get something fresh than yoga was, because yoga is it's a certain doctrine, and I felt that I couldn't be fully myself during my yoga classes. And I also, it's a misconception that you can get much more flexible through yoga. If you do Ashtanga, the way they say, 6 days per week, 2 hours, then yes, you're going to be more flexible. Everything's going to be great. If you are human and if you live your normal lifestyle with friends and some social life and other things, or you're just lazy like I am and you don't practice 6 days, then you have to find other ways. And classes that are available on urban sports, like even power yoga, power vinyasa, advanced vinyasa, whatever, are not enough, because if you want to get splits during a yoga class, you maybe don't even engage with the splits, because the topic that the teacher brings is handstands. So you are at this class and you think, well, shit, I wanted to stretch legs. Now I got handstands and I'm in an arm balance. I have nothing to do with this. I felt like I needed very specific things just in terms of my body and how I wanted to be able to put myself in which positions. So I started to do more stretching work, like more flexibility work in parallel with teaching yoga. And because I've had so many flexibility teachers also in Ukraine before, I felt like, oh, wow, all of that can be actually put together into something that works super good. Like all my favorite exercises from all the people, if you put them together, maybe it's even a better program. Um, and teaching flexibility classes allowed me to be more myself during the classes. And then this myself was brought into my yoga classes. So now I can be myself during both. And that's also quite nice. I think it's just one thing that happens after another. So you go to yoga classes, you think, oh, I actually want to be even more flexible than this allows me. And then you go to flexibility class. And then you start teaching flexibility. It's quite simple.
Okay. Interesting. Maybe even if it wasn't meant to be that mind blowing, to visit one of your.
Yeah, not a mind blowing answer. Just
So yeah, good job there, and yeah.
But I find it also liberating. Again, I envy everyone. I envy you. I envy people who had dancing experience, gymnastic experience, because it gives you such an advantage as a teacher. Then I don't know, you are already in the split, or you can lift your legs somehow, and then people respect you immediately. I have decided to abandon that way of thinking and just tell myself, I come from my background. I know how it is to not be flexible. And my strength is to come from the not flexible background to a somewhat flexible background. And that is how I can also relate better to people. So if a certain teacher has done only like flexibility work, gymnastics starting from age 6, they forgot how it is to be a wooden stick.
Yeah.
And then they give the exercise and people are like, how can we ever follow this? And people get frustrated. And I hope that I just closer to what people like. You sometimes really forget as a teacher, because for me, like it's very naturally to sit in any cross-legged seat.
Yes.
And then it's not natural for people, and you have to kind of again remind this to yourself and to let people be the way they are and not demand from them.
That's actually very good, because your class, I feel like also the people who visit your classes, they're I feel like a very great mixture. I mean, you said you kind of have a certain type of people or a certain group of people that come to your classes, but they still are very different. That's very much a strength of you, that you're just accepted to be yourself and put your story in the focus, your background in the focus, and it works. You don't have to even put a mask on. You don't have to be someone. You don't have to come from a gymnast background. People come because they feel relatable to you and they enjoy that you're giving off the energy, that you're being yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what makes the most sense. You're right. I have also dancers coming to my classes, and I know how to make the exercise harder. And I don't even have to be able to do that. I just know how it looks and I can explain it. So then I guess it's valid. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's a big treasure actually to have trust from people and to also to hear good feedback. Like I'm gonna brag a little that I really get good feedback about, for example, Friday sessions, mostly because again it has the biggest turnover, like this 45 people every evening, or like 25, I don't know, depends on Berlin's weather and the season. I hear this good feedback and I'm like, nice. I guess it works. I'm happy it works. And it's of course it's a little hard to even believe this when you are trying to be like honest with yourself and to check on yourself all the time and you strive for perfection, like for this enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
You cannot get it, and then you sometimes I'm also like pushy towards myself and I hold myself to quite a high standard. And then I guess also the standards that we put for ourselves are always higher than what other people expect from us in reality. And that people from the outside are much more forgiving towards us than we are towards ourselves.
Very true. Which is ridiculous because you're the one that
Yeah.
actually spends with yourself, but you're the most hard on yourself. Actually, yeah, super interesting. I feel like also the podcast, how I imagine it took a bit of a turn. We stick to some topics more. Again, everything is not meant to be in control, so I really like that we stick to some topics more. Coming to close to an end right now, I have one last question to you, which Embodia just stands a lot for being present, being in the moment, and really feeling home with yourself. And we talked already a lot about this, but I just want to ask you if you have some last thoughts, experience as a teacher that you can give to the audience and who might have not experienced anything like that before, or who are anxious about going to a class because they feel like they haven't gotten the knowledge or they haven't gotten the experience to do so. Some small advice that you can share.
So when it comes to classes, if you have not been to any class, or if you're still a little uncertain if you should, or if you come but then you doubt yourself if it's anyhow for you, I think just stick to it, keep trying. We're always under the illusion that everyone is looking at us when we are on the mat taking the class. No one is looking at you. Everyone is only thinking about themselves. Like exactly the same amount of inner thoughts and inner judgment that you are likely going through during the class, other people are likely going through too. And they're thinking about all of their own things, how their evening is going to unfold, what have happened to them before. With a very slight percent, it's about you. Maybe they also have seen you, maybe they have noticed you, maybe they have even thought something about you, but that is for sure not the end of the world, and it doesn't matter. Just stick to what your intentions are. If those intentions are to start moving your body and to do that more often and consistent, keep doing so. If it is about consciousness and like how to get to this whole topic, Waking Up, it's an app, and it's an app that has meditations, and it's an app that you can also get a free access to if you are not able of paying the subscription. Like you can email them and you can say I cannot afford, and like you don't even type anything, you just email them and you say I request a full scholarship, and then they give you a full discount, for example. Or if you want to contribute, right, then you pay for the full app. It's like a treasure. It's just a very good app, Waking Up. And it's with this guy who I mentioned before, Sam Harris, and with many, many very nice invited people like David White, Oliver Berkman, Douglas Harding, random names. Google those. They're very nice. Like Douglas Harding, he has a headless way meditation. so beautiful.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. And in general, life advice, curiosity. I think curiosity helps everything. I needed to go again to the dentist today, and I was like, okay, Dariia, curiosity. Let's just see how it goes. Very interesting how it's going to unfold. And it really works, I think, because it involves also creativity and beginner's mind as well, right? This curiosity, you see things as new and you don't have to bring your past experiences into those things because they are actually new from moment to moment. Yeah.
True.
Waking up, curiosity, come to yoga classes. 3 advices.
A very good set of advice. And I think also very realistic advices. You know, we have the huge go to a 2-year retreat, become a monk. Like it's very, you know, realistic advice is what we need in our day to day. Well, thank you so much, not only for the advices, but also for your time in general, for everything you shared, for your mindset, and kind of like to have a bit of a look inside of, you know, your world and how you see things, the behind the scenes of Dariia. It's very, very nice to talk to you. I'm going to link your Instagram for everyone in the description to check it out, and I very much encourage everyone to do so. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for talking to you.
Thank you so much for organizing this, and thank you for your beautiful project. I really have fingers crossed for you, and I'm gonna look how it develops always and cheer for you. And yeah, thank you for having me.